IF. Thank goodness it is Friday. Y'all, it's a Friday edition of What the Truck. I'm your man, Malcolm Harris. Welcome back, man. Super excited to see all of you guys, and I appreciate you guys listening in for another wild and jam-packed show. Today, we got a power lineup joining us. Jefferies, the president and CEO of the Association of American Railroads, is going to be bringing us the inside track on rail safety policy and the future of multimodal freight. And then later, shifting gears, Kari Gonzalez, the president and CEO of MXV Rail, is going to go behind the scenes with us to see how cutting-edge research and technology are transforming rail operations across the country. Two incredible leaders, one jam-packed show. Y'all, I could not be happier to bring it to you. But first, y'all know how we do it. It's the good folks. Got to show love to Descartes Macro Point.
By shippers and preferred by brokers, Descartes Macro Point is the industry's best transportation visibility and risk monitoring platform. Deliver confidence with real-time insights and automated alerts to keep freight moving and your customers informed. Less risk, more connectivity. That's Descartes Macro Point. Visibility you can trust.
Every load matters when it comes to your reputation. That's why the world's top companies rely on Descartes Macro Point for visibility and risk monitoring. Keep customers confident, freight moving, and operations in sync. Descartes Macro Point, visibility that you can trust. Y'all, I know we had a jam-packed show on Wednesday, so we weren't able to get to the headlines, but y'all, do I have a headline roster in store. Right now, take a look at this. This insurance companies are likely to take a hard stance on non-domiciled CDLs. So we're kicking this thing off today, and we're calling it a compliance capacity crunch. Essentially what this is, y'all, is there's a crackdown on non-domiciled CDLs. Insurance companies are making their stance extremely clear. They're drawing a hard line. Hey, make sure this is not happening or else we are out entirely. Look at this tweet from Craig as well. An insurance executive told him specifically he expects new trucking and brokerage policies will forbid non-domiciled CDLs. This is all over. And DG Damian Gunjak said, our captive provider already told us much this year, a non-issue for us since we don't hire unqualified, inexperienced drivers. So this is definitely something to be on the lookout. And again, this is more than just a compliance issue, guys. I mean, it really is. This is an operational reality check as we have more tweets siphoning through. You guys can see, like, this is super important, right? This is going to affect how we see the landscape in terms of shifting insurance, regulatory policies, and things of that nature. Another tweet here as well. Heard this as well. Many insurance companies will now be taking a very close look at CDLs of drivers listed on the policy. According to several insurance agents, insurance companies are looking to deny coverage in cases of non-domiciled CDLs. This real simple, y'all. I mean, there's certain standards, certain ethics that we have to follow in the space and in the industry. We're going to have a lot of continual news about this. There's another article too, essentially just saying that, hey, you're being urged to literally audit every single driver in your fleet. Stay ahead of this. This is a huge article that was posted from John yesterday. Regulatories, again, are cracking down on loopholes that let some drivers skirt residency, training requirements. The warning is simple. Do not wait for a knock on the door. It's as black and white as that. I mean, you guys are thinking about this from a liability standpoint. This could be potentially millions in terms of litigation pending if certain things are to happen. All right, so I really want you guys to take heed of this. There's, again, massive legal and insurance fallout from things that could happen if an incident, actually occurs. Fraudulent CDLs are uncovered. This is, of course, the compliance crunch. We're going to have a lot of content about this. A lot of our writers are putting out content on this. Craig, you guys know, is we're going to touch on him in a minute in headlines, but he is absolutely kind of making this, the mark of the industry, right? And being able to just see and get ahead of this thing. So make sure you guys are definitely tuned into this. Now, you guys know I'm a stylish guy. I've told people this all the time. I consider myself one of the best dressed men in Chattanooga. That's just me. But whenever I'm not in a suit jacket, I like my Nikes. Well, somebody likes Nikes a lot. Over $500,000 in Nikes. Y'all, check this story out. Cargo theft, of course, is surging. Authorities have recently arrested a New Jersey man accused of trafficking stolen Nike merch worth roughly $500,000 tied to freight train theft. This isn't a one-off, y'all. Cargo is obviously, when it comes to theft, up 60% year over year. We've talked about this with travelers. We've done quite a few pieces. I always like to touch on cargo theft. It's something that I'm really kind of fascinated by because it does impact so many of us in the space. For shippers and carriers, this isn't just like a fringe thing. Oh, it's not going to happen to me. It more than likely is going to happen to you. This is a systemic issue within the supply chain space, specifically in security. So as we move into peak season, expect insurers, law enforcement, and shippers to turn up the heat and visibility when it comes to this. All right. So definitely something to look out for. And we're going to stay on the common theme of cargo theft. Not my guy. They got my guy. I'm talking Guy Ferrari, man. He is missing some tequila as we speak. So I saw this from actually Fox News. Authorities are still investigating how over $1 million worth of premium tequila vanished in transit. The thieves pulled off the heist in a precise and coordinated way between Mexico and Cali. It's a reminder, cargo theft rings are sophisticated. Y'all, this was not an inside deal. Looking at this right now from Guy, it's like I'm not a needle a needle rather in a haystack. I mean, this is semi-tractor truck. My mind is swimming in exactly how do you lose, that many thousand bottles of tequila. Y'all, this is definitely what I call an inside job. So something to be on the lookout for as well. Looking at this next story, talking about capacity growth, it is outpacing pricing again. So transportation capacity continues to outpace, keeping the market lifted towards shippers, more trucks and available space, but not enough freight to move and drive rates higher. Looking at this graph as well, talking about outbound tender rejection and the index is a clear indicator, right? That locking in flexible contracts now to prepare for the validity that's going to come with holiday demand would be smart if you're able to. However, I know that things are fluid in this market. And looking at this market and the man with the plan, Craig Fuller, believe it or not, is now an author. My man, congratulations to you. I'm super excited for you. He's released his first book, Moving the World: How the Supply Chain Evolution Affects Us All. It's not just a memoir, it's a roadmap. I mean, it essentially talks about freight waves, the rise, and kind of dives into what's reshaping freight media, data, and infrastructure. It's a look at where logistics is headed from someone who has helped define the conversation. Right now, 1995, he's giving you $1 million worth of game for 1995. That was a song lyric from one of my favorite artists, Jay-Z, and the Jay-Z of FreightWaves, my man Craig Fuller. Congratulations. Moving the World is out now and could not be more excited for you and for what's to come. Coming out now, though, is a great guest that I'm super excited to have on the show. Again, I teed him up earlier. Ian Jefferies, the president and CEO of the Association of American Railroads. Ian has spent his entire career shaping freight rail policy and its connection to the broader supply chain, including trucking. Under his leadership, AAR drives safety, infrastructure, investment, and innovation across logistics. Ian, my guy, it's great to have you on the show. Welcome.
Malcolm, good to meet you.
Good to
I'm
meet
trying to
you.
figure out what rapper I am of the rail industry. If Craig is the Jay-Z of FreightWaves, I don't know. I got to think about that.
We will definitely make that known and try to pinpoint that. I got to have this conversation with you to get your style, man. How's your day going so far, bro?
It's going great. Beautiful Friday here in DC. I'm getting ready to actually head out on the road. Meet my family down in North Carolina, so I'll be zipping down with a bunch of their listeners on I-95 here shortly.
Awesome, awesome. Well, hopefully you have safe travels and safe weather. And I appreciate you being on the show. And I want to kind of dive into it right now. The Security and Emergency Response Training Center, right, delivers hands-on, federally funded training for first responders, and it involves a lot of things, right, when it comes to rail, truck, intermodal. Can you kind of walk us through the role that it plays in preparing first responders for real world incidents across supply chain? How do like programs that are associated with it as well make the difference when it comes to seconds in terms of how they count when it comes to emergencies?
Absolutely. So we look at safety as kind of a three-pronged stool. So, we don't want to have accidents, obviously. We want to do everything we can to prevent an accident from happening. However, when an accident happens, we want to make sure that those responsible for responding have the tools, have the training, have the knowledge necessary in order to reduce the impact. So, we want to prevent an accident, we want to mitigate an accident, and then we want to respond appropriately to an accident. And so What CERTSI does is gives real live fire training to first responders from around the country. So we're training thousands of first responders every year at our site out in Pueblo, Colorado, and we have simulated derailments, we have simulated truck accidents, and it is teaching first responders firsthand the appropriate, safe way to respond to an incident, depending on what type of incident it is, typically around hazmat. And because there are very specific things you need to do in order to reduce the impact and make sure that you've properly responded and that you've done it in a safe way, reduce risk to yourself, the responder, but also reduce risk to the community. So it's important for us to do everything we can to prevent an accident from happening. But if and when one does occur, to make sure first responders have all the tools, information they need to respond safely and mitigate the impacts of that incident.
Definitely. Now, Ian, looking ahead, because freight volumes are obviously doing this, right? I mean, some days
Mhm.
it's here, some days it's here. Certainly, it's evolving, it's training to kind of keep pace with new threats, technologies
Mhm.
in the space. How is it doing this specifically from your vantage point and what you're seeing right now?
It's doing well. When we shift and look at freight volumes right now, um, it's a mixed bag. You kind of mentioned that, depending on what type of commodity you're looking at. We're a harbinger of the economy, so the industrial economy. About half of what we move is consumer products. Consumer products continue to do pretty well. We're up year over year on that intermodal traffic. But you get into other pockets, it kind of follows the economy. So there's bright spots. There's spots with a little headwind, but we're confident that we'll keep working with our customers to deliver what they need to communities around the country. And as long as the economy can keep chugging along, we're going to be right there with it.
Talk a little bit about, at crossings, specifically professional drivers, when you're thinking about like the five critical safety steps, things like eliminating distractions, stopping safely, knowing the law. How are you guys kind of ushering this in and talking through, like an awareness campaign, and how is that making a difference as well?
Yeah, absolutely. The probably the biggest safety challenge we have in our industry is at grade crossings. About 95% of injuries and fatalities occur there, and most of it, unfortunately, is very, very, very preventable. So our mantra is see tracks, think trains. So
Mm.
you absolutely need to follow the rules of the road when it comes to a crossing. Follow the safety devices that are there for frankly the driver's safety. And we don't want folks trying to beat trains, trying to go around gates. And so a lot of what we do is a public awareness campaign. Like I said, see that tracks, think trains, safe behavior around rail crossings. We also work with states to make sure that they've got the most up to date crossing technology, crossing devices to make sure that we are preventing folks from even trying to beat a train or get around a crossing, a blocked crossing. And then it's also working on the infrastructure side. So there's some great grant programs through the federal government that we work with our local partners on to eliminate crossings. So you can either separate them so that you don't have that at grade interaction, or close them where appropriate. Because at the end of the day, we want to make sure both the folks operating over the roads and the folks on the rails are safe, and that interaction with road and rail can be a risky situation. And so all parties need to play their role to make sure they're doing what they can to maximize safety.
And I could not have teed up a better kind of transition. The interaction between road and rail. Trucks are railroads, obviously, the greatest customers, but also competitors. How is AAR improving the experience for truckers at yards, but then also ensuring operations remain smooth and efficient when it comes to all parties involved?
Yeah, so you hit the nail on the head. Trucking companies are our biggest customers. About 50% of our traffic across our totality is intermodal traffic. So that's that trailer traffic, that's that container traffic. But there are certainly lanes too where we compete head to head. But for us in intermodal yards, it's really important to make the process for our truckers as seamless as possible. in order for a quick drop off, quick pickup, keep things moving, keep things fluid in the yard, keep things moving for the trucker so that they're not wasting time, and they can get on with their day and make their deliveries, make their drop off. So that's in-gate technology. That's real-time location as far as knowing exactly where you're going to either pick up or drop off, and really making it as smooth and seamless as a process as possible. We want to reduce friction for our trucking partners, because the smoother process they have, then the more fluid the yard is flowing, and the less likely we are to have backups and things stacking up on top of themselves. Because this is it's like a intermodal ballet, right? Everybody's got to keep dancing, and a symphony of sorts, and everybody's got to play their part, and we've got to make sure that the system is flowing smoothly so that not any piece gets held up, because that has reverberating consequences, not only in the yard, but other parts of the supply chain, really.
That was such an iconic answer to talk about this industry, but then to compare it to ballet. I thought I was a talent, but man, you're about to have
Ah,
me out of a job right now, Ian. You need to stop.
I don't
That
think
was
there's any
awesome.
risk of that. I'm not nearly as stylish.
Oh man, let's talk a little bit about, because you have your hands all into policy, right? When it comes to
Mhm.
policy parity, and how keeping pace in the space specifically when it comes to supply chain. How do you have policy parity just across the board, specifically when it comes to AAR?
Yeah, so our big thing really is innovation and technology policy. We are,
Yeah,
believe it or not, next year will be a 200-year-old industry. And so we've got regulations maybe that aren't 200 years old, but certainly over 50 years old, that require us to do things in a very antiquated way. And like every industry, we've continued to evolve, we've continued to innovate, we've continued to develop and deploy new technologies that really advance safety, advance efficiency, and allow us to operate just in a better, more modern way. But we run into regulatory requirements that require us to do it the old-fashioned way. And so, for our purposes, we think it's really important that policymakers recognize the need to modernize our regulatory structures, create opportunities for innovation, allow for new ways to meet requirements, because at the end of the day, that's what's really going to drive safety improvements. That's what's going to drive efficiency. And we think that's the case across all modes. As a railroader, folks might think I'm opposed to technology and trucking and things along those lines. That's absolutely not the case. I think every industry ought to be able to innovate. I think every industry ought to be able to deploy technology, especially in the name of safety. But we think there ought to be mode neutral technology policies. Let's not pick winners and losers for who's allowed to innovate and who's not, depending on what the politics are of the day. And so our mission is really just to say, let's create a level playing field and let everybody innovate, and let's advance safety across the board.
absolutely. That is fantastic stuff. Can you explain AAR's priorities regarding the Highway Trust Fund, specifically truck size, weight regulations, the multimodal grant programs, and how these measures kind of impact freight, rail, and trucking alike? Because I know they're kind of intertwined when you really think about it.
Mhm. Yeah, so we think so. Railroads, we're almost entirely privately owned, maintained. We invest about $25 billion a year of our own capital back into the network. So we're very fortunate that we're not reliant on a lot of federal funding.
Right.
You mentioned multimodal grant programs, though. We absolutely take advantage of those with some of our state and local partners. So we'll kick in resources, and the state and local partners can tap into these federal programs to really take on big um, projects of national significance that might otherwise not get done. So we think those types of competitive programs are really really healthy and really positive for the entire supply chain. So whether it's ports competing, rails competing, highway projects, we think those programs are really beneficial at a national level, especially when it comes to the supply chain and moving freight. When it comes to the Highway Trust Fund, and I think we're totally aligned with the trucking community on this. We've got to fix the Highway Trust Fund. I think we're looking at over $200 billion of general fund transfers that have gone into that program, which was designed to be a user pay, self-sustaining program. We haven't seen a change to that funding mechanism since 1993. Spending has far outpaced revenues, and so we're really focused on how do we get back to a self-sustaining, truly user pays, equitable highway trust fund in which all users are paying in at the appropriate amount for their usage. And I got to give a lot of credit. There are different coalitions around town working on ideas. I know my colleagues at the ATA are working on ideas, and so we're not here to say, oh, this is the right idea, this is the wrong idea. As long as there's a fair, equitable, self-sustaining mechanism out there that allows the program to continue to rely on itself versus outside funding mechanisms, we think that's the path forward. And account for inflation into the future, index that thing to inflation, so we're not back here having this discussion again 5 years from now. But the opportunities are there. We just need a strong, well-funded, integrated transportation system. You hit on truck size and weight. That's something we're not super big fans of, increasing truck sizes and weights, especially when the Highway Trust Fund is in such a dismal shape. So we don't think that's a great policy debate to be having, or even a discussion to be having, frankly, until we get the HTF back to level and self-sustaining. So we're excited about the opportunities in reauth, and frankly, I think there's a lot more we're working with our trucking partners on than we are at odds with.
Awesome stuff. Now, I want to talk about a topic we mentioned earlier in the show, from Guy Ferrari to my Nikes. Let's talk cargo theft, because this is a thorn in everybody's side. Specifically, when it comes to this industry and this vertical and railroads, 100 million in 2024. How is AAR working with truckers and retailers to implement the Combating Organized Retail Crime Act, so CORCA, and also
Mhm.
improving security across supply chain? Because this is something that, to my point earlier, while breaking down headlines for listeners, this is not going away, Ian.
No, it's not going away, and it's only getting worse until we get some serious law
Yeah.
enforcement teeth to address it. Because so you hit on the coalition, and that's my comments about working with our trucking partners. Addressing cargo theft is front and center right there. So we're
Yeah.
locked in arm in arm with the ATA, with the Retail Federation, with other stakeholders, because we're all in this one together, and we've really got to get the feds to focus in on how we're going to address this, because we're dealing with organized transnational criminal networks, straight up, no bones about it. And we're also operating in interstate commerce. But to date, so much of the law enforcement piece has been left to state and local authorities who just don't have the resources or the wherewithal to take on what are highly sophisticated criminal networks. And so we're working, and we've got bipartisan legislation, believe it or not, in the House and Senate, on CORCA, that you referenced. And what that'll really do is allow for some federal coordination, federal resources, and hopefully provide the opportunity for the feds to really go after some of these folks and put serious consequences and deter criminal activity. Because we have the railroads have our own police forces, and of course work with other local and state police. I mean, we've arrested people countless times. One railroad arrested the same person 17 times, and they haven't been behind bars yet. So when you can't when you can't put people behind bars when they're repeatedly getting caught, then that's not a deterrent. We're only going to see this problem continue. And of course, trucking industry, rail industry, we're all doing things on our own. We're investing to harden our facilities, harden trains. Like I said, we have our own police forces. Shoot, we have um, fleets of drones tracking our shipments, but we operate across a 140,000-mile interstate network, and criminals know the right time to hit and where to hit. And we've got to be able to rely on our federal partners to start to take a bite out of this. And I'm confident we're going to get there. Again, strong coalition pushing really hard, bipartisan legislation in the House and the Senate, and we're going to keep pushing until we get something done.
Definitely. I think with your leadership, the resources, and the team around you, you'll be successful. I was sitting here over here listening. 17 times is egregious. That is
17 times.
absurd. That
Yeah.
is absurd. You spent a significant part of your career in talking about you now and shifting gears, policy, government, and in this space. What originally drew you to this field in the first place, Ian? Why have you chosen to stay, and how have you been so successful given what you've done so far in your career?
Well, I started out volunteering in local politics, ended up working in a mayor's office, and you really see the impacts of government decisions and policy when you're working at the local level, because you hear about it every day just walking down the street. But that really opened up my eyes to the power of public policy. and the good you can do with smart policy. And so I was really pleased to have the opportunity to work in the U.S. Senate Commerce Committee, and that's where I really dove into transportation issues. And in this world where so much is virtual and so much is digital, trucking and rail and other types of transportation and supply chain industries, that's tangible. That's real stuff. Rail is steel on steel. It doesn't get more American than that. Half of the country was built out, frankly, with rail. Railroads helped build the western half of the U.S. And at the end of the day, this is about moving products that customers rely on, that communities rely on, doing it safely, and really just helping support and drive the economy. So to me, the supply chain, trucking, rail, ports, it's all about supporting America, supporting industry, and keeping goods moving, because the less people have to worry about how things get on their shelves, I think the better off they are. And we saw some of the supply chain challenges, frankly, a few years back, where people did realize how complex and sophisticated our supply chain is. But I'm absolutely proud to be able to advocate not only for our industry, but for infrastructure and transportation writ large, because it's the backbone of what keeps this country moving.
Could not say it better, Ian. Let me ask my final question before I get you out of here. When it comes to a defining moment in your career, can you identify that, like, what the truck moment, like I'm having right now being on the show? What was that defining moment in your career? You're just like, all right, like this is it.
Oh wow, there's been a lot of them, I think. I'll tell you what, defining moments. There's been several. In the Senate, negotiating major legislation, meeting with my House partners in the middle of the night in the Capitol. You sit there and you think, man, it doesn't get more cool than this. This is like, this is how this is the legislative process at its best. But just frankly, from my current position, the opportunity to go testify in front of Congress and talk about the value proposition that our industry provides, that it doesn't get any better than that. Being in the Senate, being in the House, sitting on a panel, directly engaging with legislators about why your industry is so important to this country and why your advocacy positions make sense not only for your industry but for the country. It's such an honor, and I'm so proud to represent this industry. And I was talking to somebody yesterday, and they said, "Yeah, the great thing is a lot of what you're saying." I said, "Frankly, all of what I'm saying, it happens to be true." So, when you're speaking the truth, when you're speaking with facts, and you believe in what you're representing, I think it makes you more effective. And I'm just so honored to have the opportunity to help be the voice of this industry and transportation infrastructure writ large in Washington.
Well, Ian, I'm honored that you decided to join the show today. I really appreciate it. I've learned so much. I know our listeners are extremely grateful as well. And I hope, again, you have safe travels to North Carolina. And thank you so much just for being on What the Truck, man.
Absolutely. Thank you. I look forward to being on again and seeing you soon.
Absolutely. Again, Ian Jefferies, President and CEO at AAR. That was awesome, right? Being able to have that insight and to be able to um, just hear from the source, right? I mean, I told you guys that nothing really is off limits here at What the Truck, whether it's a truck, whether it's a boat, whether it's a plane, whether it's a train. And I did not mean to make that rhyme, but I just happen to do it all the time. And now I see her in the actual flesh. I am so excited about this, y'all. Kari Gonzalez, the president and CEO of MXV Rail, is essentially the world's premier rail research organization. Kari, her work has ensured that innovative ideas are tested in controlled environments before being implemented in real world operations, making rail safer, more efficient, and more resilient. Kari, welcome to the show. So happy to have you on What the Truck.
Well, thank you for having me. I'm super excited to be on the show.
Super excited to have you. First off, I want to get behind the name MXV Rail. Like, where did this come from? Because I got a text message a couple of hours ago, and I'm very fascinated. So please, you have the floor. MXV, how did this come about?
Well, first of all, it came about with a long legacy of research and a bunch of nerds coming together to really help the industry move forward. And when we think about that concept of moving forward, it really is represented very well by a mathematical equation known as momentum. And so mass times velocity, MXV, momentum. Haha, you like the nerdiness? I like it.
I love the nerdiness. No, I'm definitely a fan. I heard that and I was like, yo, this is really, really cool. And MXV is where good ideas become reality. Can you share some examples, some projects where research has led to measurable safety and efficiency improvements, specifically when it comes to rail?
I certainly can do that. Before I move on, though, from the MXV, I do have to let everybody know that our nerdy organization did not come up with that on our own. We had a great branding organization that helped us out. So I would suggest that
You're
any
so awesome.
engineering organizations don't go at that alone. Find the experts.
No, of course, of course.
But but speaking about experts and what we do to help improve safety and efficiency in the industry, we really do thrive on opportunities to bring innovation to life at MXV Rail. We have plenty of examples of helping the industry improve safety over our legacy, but I think one of the best examples that we have in how we show research drives real world implementation in the rail industry is through our Facility for Accelerated Service Testing, or FAST. It's a singular program that really contributes to advancements across the entirety of the industry and all aspects of railroading. Essentially, this program operates, it's a 3 mile loop. And so I want you to get this vision in your head, a 3 mile loop in a controlled test facility where we're running up to 140 million gross tons of traffic on an annual basis, which is essentially simulating years of heavy service in about a fraction of the time. So with that 3 mile loop, we usually are conducting more than 50 experiments at one time, testing anything from track components and rail stills to maintenance strategies and just new inspection technologies. So with this single platform, we're looking at allowing our industry partners to validate ideas very quickly, identifying what works, and sharing those proven solutions to be safely deployed in an efficient way throughout the industry. So when you think about FAST and the legacy of FAST, it's really helped railroads adopt innovations that improve safety, reduce cost, and extend asset life, which are all things super important to making the entirety of the industry more resilient.
Now, speaking of resiliency, and I'm glad that you said that term because you have to be resilient when it comes to extreme weather conditions. Can you walk us as an audience? How does this impact, when it comes to what you've seen in terms of research and what has happened when it comes to extreme weather conditions in this space?
Oh, that's a great question because we've been seeing more of it, right? And as weather is adapting, so does the industry in solutions. And so extreme weather is a growing challenge for all transportation modes, but railroads typically face some unique risks, especially when it comes to heavy rainfall and extreme heat. And so we're really working on this head on with several different research projects and different partners trying to seek solutions for mitigation of the climate impacts on the infrastructure. So, one, when we look at rainfall, it's not just about storms, right? It's about storm intensity. And so, when we're seeing longer dry periods followed by heavier downpours, it really can lead to flooding, landslides, and even washouts of tracks and bridges. And when that happens, it's hugely impactful, not only from a safety perspective, but from an efficiency and reliability perspective. So, traditionally, the industry's looked at culvert designs and using historical data for those designs, but today that's not enough anymore. And so we're really looking at advanced computer modeling, using satellite elevation mapping to predict ground shifts and give earlier warnings so that in the event that something's going to happen, we know that it's going to happen, and there's ways that we can put preventative techniques in place. Moving to the heat side, which is another big challenge for the industry, depending on what railroad you're operating in what territory. Those large temperature swings can cause significant alignment issues in continuously welded rail. Historically, we've mitigated those with speed restrictions and heat patrols, but now we're looking for better ways using technology to be able to measure the neutral temperature of the rail and understand how those train characteristics can affect the risk. So, like how long, how heavy is a train, and what does a combination of those things mean in terms of performance of the rail in that particular environment? With all the research that we're doing, our goal is really to strengthen the track and develop smarter mitigation strategies so that trains keep moving and no matter what the weather conditions are throwing at us.
Carrie, you are an absolute wizard. I Wow. I hope you guys are getting some value and writing some stuff down because she's taking us to school right now. And I want to talk about this. And I was excited to pick your brain specifically about this question. Automated track inspection. So it's been around for decades and we're seeing challenges in adoption. Can you explain how MXV is advancing these technologies and why it's critical in terms of operational safety as well as efficiency?
Certainly. And I think, talking about how long it's been around, it's important to say that adoption takes time because as a railroad, they want to be absolutely confident in the new technology that they're getting the right answer and creating the best business decisions out of it. But that's really where MXV Rail comes in and plays a critical role by combining our deep technical expertise with a controlled test environment, and that helps accelerate the journey from concept to real world implementation. In saying that, our independence is an absolute key for being able to do that. So we're not a supplier and we're not an operator, which means that we're sitting in a position to objectively assess performance and identify the risks associated with any new technology, whether it be automated track inspection, positive train control, you name it, we're looking at it. And so when a supplier brings a new solution to the table, we're here to validate it under very rigorous controlled conditions, which helps them to understand the performance, helps them refine it where they need it, and then it's really ensuring that it's ready for prime time before it ever reaches mainline service. So, we're really turning these promising ideas into proven tools in an efficient way, being able to help safely deploy it and connect the supply industry with railroads using that unbiased data-driven assessments, and maximizing innovation while keeping safety and reliability at the forefront of what everybody's doing.
Carrie, let's kind of shift gears. When we talk about collaboration, specifically in this space, as well as partnerships, MXV, you guys have quite a few partners and a lot of collaborations going on within the space that you leverage. How do these partnerships accelerate innovation and improve overall safety when it comes to the efficiency here of the rail system?
Well, I will tell you that the rail industry is unique in that way, where you're seeing all of these partners working together for that common goal of improving safety, reliability, efficiency, resiliency across the entirety of the network. And so that makes partnerships really essential to driving innovation and improving safety. I think one of the best examples in our work right now that I think that you've talked a little bit about already in your show was in our Security and Emergency Response Training Center, or CERTSI. I know it's a mouthful. But this is a place where we're working with the federal government, we're working with communities to help deliver hands-on, federally funded training for first responders to manage hazardous material incidents that are involving rail, truck, and any intermodal freight. Through our programs, we offer specialized courses like highway emergency response or alternative fuels and flammable incident response. And all of these programs were not just this thing that MXV Rail came up with. It was an industry need, collaborating with partners across the entirety of the industry to bring these programs to fruition and allowing the curriculum to cover all the things that might happen in any scenario that's related to any mode of surface transportation. We're really proud of the fact that since inception in 1985, CERTSI has trained over 76,000 first responders nationwide. And it's part of the program that we do with the National Domestic Preparedness Consortium allows us to provide this training for free for state, local, tribal, and territorial agencies, which is saving communities millions while still improving public safety. So, collaborations like these really accelerate innovation. They improve the safety state of the industry, and it's bringing together expertise from across transportation modes by combining research, technology, real-world training. Like we're really in a place to improve the resiliency of the network.
Very compelling stuff there. Now, let me ask, because I know that you are a forward thinker, right? You've been a servant leader. I'm going to get into you and your career in a second, but in terms of this mindset that you have, when it comes to tech specifically, in the next, I'd say 5 to 10 years, what's the one piece of technology that you're super excited about when it comes to the industry and MXV specifically?
Oh man, that's a tough question. And I started off this conversation with the whole intro that I'm nerdy. And in fear of being a little bit trendy, I am going to use the ultra trendy focus on AI. But for us, AI isn't just a buzzword. It's really a practical tool that when we're applying it thoughtfully, we think that we can transform how we inspect, maintain, operate rail systems over the next 5 to 10 years. If you look right now at the industry as a whole, we're already using lower level AI and machine learning systems across the industry. And I think the next step is really making those systems smarter and more reliable so that we're continuing to be able to make positive safety outcomes. At MXV Rail, we're constantly looking for those breakthrough applications. One exciting one that we're working on right now is combining AI and machine learning with edge computing to interpret raw ultrasonic scans for signals in rails to figure out how we might be able to take that data, identify failures before they're happening. So hoping you love all of that nerdy speak, but regardless of all of that, we're really excited about this combination of what we have today with what the future holds to be able to identify rail flaws and preventing rail failures, which ultimately it's going to prevent derailments in the future.
Kari, I want to get into your career very briefly. I know we're about up on time. Do I have my research correct? Did you truly start as an intern at MXV, and now you've worked your way to the top of the organization? That's what I've researched.
Your research is absolutely correct, and it happened
Wow.
by pure happenstance. I
Wow.
did not set out my mechanical engineer, or actually started out as a chemical engineer in my degree program.
Yeah.
Randomly was coaching little girls basketball. One of the dads knew a guy. That guy was an engineer at the organization, and they're like, "You want an internship?" And I was like, "Certainly." Uh, from a basketball coaching opportunity to CEO, it's been a whirlwind of a story. When I started, I had no idea about rail and about our organization. I lived in the town that we operate out of and had no clue that it existed. And so for me, it's pretty special to be able to, start a career that I had no idea about and be able to be in a position where we're leading the industry and really being a purpose-led organization.
That's awesome. Now, two more questions because you threw the basketball in there. I can't let you leave like that. Who is the best basketball player of all time to you?
Oh, Michael Jordan. There's no
Oh
question.
my
Come
gosh,
on.
it's LeBron James, Kari.
No,
Oh, we will talk. We will
no.
talk. We will talk because that is going to be like a 45-minute conversation.
All right.
Anything else for our listeners that you'd like to talk through? Obviously, there's been some challenges in the space, but also I think you as well as your team and the partnerships around have really ushered in what I think is going to be success and it's very admirable. So just thank you for being here, and thank you for the work that you're doing. It really is a sight to see, and continue the great work that you and everybody at MXV is currently doing.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much for the opportunity. And just for your listeners, if you don't know what's going on in rail, make sure you dig into it because there are a lot of people dedicated. I work on a wonderful team of 250 professionals that are dedicating their days, day in, day out, to making our industry safer and more reliable. And I just hope that people recognize that this is no longer your grandfather's railroad with steam engines. We are a tech savvy industry that's going to just keep getting better.
Kari Gonzalez, CEO and president of MXV Rail. Kari, thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, take care. Bye. In terms of guys, I got you guys for the next minute. So we're going to talk about two things, and I'll get you out of here to enjoy the rest of your Friday. The first, F3, make sure you sign up immediately, guys. October 21st and 22nd, we are running promotions through the 12th. So you have until this weekend, and I'm sure there's going to be some more things rolled out as well. Craig Fuller and company. I'm company because I'm going to be there. And if you're not, you're a square. Make sure you are here. F3, it's going to be a new venue, new demos, new energy, new aura, new everything. And then also the road ahead for next week. Taking a look, Tim Crawford is going to be joining What the Truck, representing 10th Street, as well as Carly Gunby of Transfix is going to be on the show as well. And that's it for another fabulous Friday here on What the Truck. I'm your guy, the one and only Malcolm Harris. Like, subscribe on all platforms. I'll see you guys next week. Peace.